Hey kids, we're back with an all-new Enough Already podcast, and we had a lot to talk about, Tracy.
In fact, too much, I think.
Yeah, this is going to be over 2 hours.
Listen to it at 1.5 speed. I highly recommend that. We sound so much smarter when we talk like the Micro Machines guy.
That's true. Well, we talk obviously about the debate that happened this week between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. We also talk about the Donald Trump, what are we calling them, sex tapes or just the Trump tapes?
I think they're just the Trump tapes because I don't know if it would count as a sex tape. It would be maybe a sex talk tape. But now that the New York Times has played games with what actually counts as a sex tape, I think which involves the production of VHS. I don't know what to call these.
We touched on the vice presidential debate that happened before all that madness, and we bring on our good friend Ashe Schow of the New York Observer and Washington Examiner to give us her take on what happened at the debate in St. Louis. Tracy, where can everyone find the Enough Already podcast?
You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, on Facebook, and at EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com.
Follow her on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. Follow me at Fingers Malloy. Okay, enough already. I didn't get a chance to see all the debate, but I saw some of it, and I watched it through the Kumia network, and I thought they were all going to jizz at the same time when he said, "You'd be in jail."
Yeah, I haven't watched their coverage yet.
Oh my!
I didn't want to get too tainted. It was a Gavin and Anthony again?
Yeah, and I think there was some other guy there.
Pat Dixon, maybe?
Yeah, and they had an audience.
Oh, yeah, they did that for the first one.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the audience was rowdy.
Well, it was a much rowdier debate. Like, I just finished listening to Part of the Problem with Dave Smith. And they had come in last night to do it. And I was following his co-host on Twitter was just like, this is awesome. They normally do Sunday and Friday episodes. So on Friday, they were like, look, this is Trump's last chance. He's got to really come through. And they came in, they were like, holy shit. And they're both anarchists, you know, like, and they were just like, this is so awesome. He must be listening to us. Like, he did all this shit that we've just been, like, praying for somebody to do to the Clintons, like, hitting her on Khizr Khan and just saying, like, his son wouldn't be dead. If I was president, he wouldn't be dead. How fucking insulting is that? You stupid bitch. Like, oh, my God. It was so much fucking fun. It's so much fun.
But he started off weak.
Well, it was like they put him on the defensive immediately with that tape thing. Mm-hmm. But he did pivot that and turned it around to being like, let's talk about important things like ISIS running around beheading people.
Right.
Which is the way to go. And just be like, this is frivolous and silly and has absolutely no bearing on everybody else's lives. You, on the other hand, you nasty old cunt. Well, I was thinking because my dad didn't see it either, so I talked to him briefly today, and he was just like, yeah, I saw the jail comment, and then I started running through all of the other things that he said. They were just like, yes, fucking direct hit, sunk my battleship.
She didn't know what to do when he said, you'd be in jail.
Yeah.
She just kind of like leaned back into her chair and had that lovely unforced smile that she likes to paint on her face.
Well, and then there was some stuff I was looking at. Scott Adams wrote a blog about it, of course. Mm-hmm. That was pretty interesting. But he was also, somebody tweeted at him like, Scott, you were right. And they have video of Hillary on her plane. It's up on the Gateway Pundit. she did a little presser on the plane afterwards, and she was saying, like, everybody, can we sit down? We want to take off so we can get some drinks served. So you remember, Adams is the one that said she was drunk in that video where she's like, why aren't I 50 points ahead?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah. So, and he tweeted, I thought this was great, that fly picture. Adams' response was, sometimes God sends an army of angels to do his work, but for the small jobs, he just sends a fly. And then he hashtagged it landslide Trump.
Do you think in her condition she felt that fly on her face?
No.
Between
the Botox and all the pills that she's on. This is just outstanding. I mean, it's all worth it just for this. Just for last night. Yeah.
There's so much we could talk about, because we obviously did our show, Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
And we missed all of the drama throughout the week leading up to the Trump tapes. And then, the Trump tapes. And, the funny thing is, I think the question that was on everyone's mind when the Trump tapes came out was, will Billy Bush be able to keep his job?
That was my first priority. No, my first is, which cousin is he? Like, who? Prescott was his grandpappy too, right? Is this how this all works?
I guess.
Great grandpappy.
It's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I don't know. What?
Well, I was surprised during the primary how many other Bush brothers there were that I'd never heard of. Because I remember at some point, like, Neil Bush came out and he was going to go be Ted Cruz's treasurer or something like this. And you're like, who's that guy?
Yep.
And then there's everybody's favorite, Shep Bush.
Yeah. And then you got Reggie Bush, who won the Heisman Trophy a few years ago.
Sure. And then there's Anheuser.
Well, I guess we should bring Ashe on.
I think so.
Ashe Schow of the Washington Examiner and New York Observer is here. Hi, Ashe.
Hey, Fingers. Hey, Tracy.
Hello.
You okay?
Yeah, it's just one of those Mondays,
You're working for the Clinton campaign and you didn't tell us?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're upset right now because the debate didn't go that well, but it's probably not going to help Trump that much because of the comments from over the weekend are just still kind of dominating everything.
You really think that he's not going to come out of this on the winning side because people are still talking about that silly tape?
Yeah, I think the tape is, what he said was gross. Was it actions? It was just words. But the media is hyping this up so much that it's just like, unless voters kind of see through it, which maybe they will, about how, like, wait, what about Bill Clinton, really? Like, or, there have been some people have been like, yeah, I've said disgusting things privately, or like, kind of hoping that, well, all these people that are making this an issue sure hope you never say something behind the scenes that you would never want anyone else to hear. Unless people kind of see it that way. And I think the media just continues down this path until Election Day.
Well, I do agree with you that, of course, this will not be the last tape that comes up between now and Election Day. And it's just a matter of, will people gravitate to these tapes even more and point to them as proof that Donald Trump shouldn't be in the White House, that he's a pig? Or will people start saying, well, geez, you've really focused on Donald Trump and some of the things he's said in the past. Why aren't you focusing on Hillary's actions?
Yeah, that were done years after what Trump said. I mean, her whole email scandal, that was 2008. That was 3 years after Trump's comments, and that was ongoing until 2012. So for 4 years versus, these one-off comments, which I'm sure is not the only comments he's made. But it's just kind of like, we know what Clinton would do in the White House. She says one thing privately and another publicly, and, she's basically used the State Department as a way to enrich the Clinton Foundation and help her supporters. We know these are things she has actually done. and yet, they're not being focused on because, media bias.
But Ash, in her defense, Abe Lincoln did those things.
Right, exactly. The old Abe Lincoln defense. Everybody need to get out of a jam, blame it on Lincoln.
Yeah, I was just talking about that movie to the Wall Street guys that were paying me somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like, shoot, guys, I will go to a movie and then you can pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars to give you my minor little review. I'll do that. Sure. I'll talk to anybody about the movie I saw the night before.
I do it for $5 and a cup of cold brew. Like, get up.
Yeah, shoot, I end up doing that for free. I can get $5 and a cold brew. Jeez, I'll start charging now.
For all we know, she was paid to make that reference last night. It's sort of like a product placement in a movie. DreamWorks gave her $50,000 to put that out there.
Right. The movie came out 2-3 years ago, but still got to make some more money on it now. Those DVD sales just never really added up.
Oh, they're trying to get into new markets. That's what she's doing. Hang out with the Saudis and the Chinese.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But okay, so the tapes dropped on Friday, but so did WikiLeaks new stuff, and new stuff from WikiLeaks drops on Monday. And I saw you were just kind of promoting some of your colleagues over at the New York Observer have got the hot thing on Donna Brazile, who took over the DNC when Debbie had to step aside, but she's been a mole too, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we knew all along, Debbie and Donna, the whole DNC was in it for Hillary Clinton. They did whatever it took to make sure that Hillary won. And we found out at the same time that Hillary's campaign was kind of doing what it took to make sure Trump was the nominee because he was the only candidate that they weren't afraid of. They were even afraid of Ted Cruz.
Well, in retrospect, that's pretty stupid because I think Ted Cruz would be having just as hard of a time as Trump is right now, as far as personal attacks and all kinds of nonsense. But I don't think Ted might have taken it to her like Trump did last night, but not in the way that Trump did, which I think was incredibly effective. I don't think he would have brought in Bill's, accusers and the woman that Hillary defended the rapist for and laughed about as a 12-year-old and held a press conference, punking the press to show up yet again.
We would be getting the exact same accusations against Ted Cruz that you get against Trump. The only difference would be that there wouldn't be leaked tapes like this of Ted Cruz, but the media would still be saying, "Look at what a horrible misogynist he is, and how badly he treats women," and it would be the exact same stuff.
Yeah, they turned Romney into the devil,
right? Because that horrible person Romney trying to make sure that he hired women. Oh, what a monster!
He put them in a binder, Ash.
Yeah.
Well, and again, a tape surfaced, what he thought was a private conversation. Everyone just has to realize moving forward that anything that you say can be on tape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the laws are of that state. Romney was recorded in Florida, which is a two-party consent state. Trump was recorded in California, which is a two-party consent state. So both of these tapes are law-breaking. And if you'll remember, what was this guy's name, Daniel Mael, that did the Planned Parenthood thing? They were real quick to jump all over that. All these tapes from California are illegal. But nope.
Right, exactly. Exactly, but they don't do the same thing when people go into slaughterhouses and film the animals there because you care about that cause, but the media doesn't care about dead babies. So,
well, we could switch gears and talk about Evan Bayh if you like to, Ash.
He's so boring, though. He's just another revolving door politician who gets out of office and then makes millions on lobbying on K Street, and now he wants to be back in the Senate.
Ugh.
He had all those connections, which he used to make himself a whole lot of money. Now he's going to use those connections to get back into the Senate.
And he was the sanctimonious jerk holdout, right, for the Democrat side on Obamacare, because he wanted some protections, wasn't it, for abortion funding not going, or public funding not going to abortions, sticking with the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think he's trying to remind people of that, or or push that issue. But yeah, I mean, I mean, maybe there's other problems in the world, but it is kind of disgusting when politicians use their name in order to then make themselves money. Because we saw, Eric Cantor left and, of course, went to a lobbying firm. And we saw what the Clintons did after they left office. They are, with their hundreds of thousands of dollars of speeches that they're charging college students, or Wall Street, plus the Clinton Foundation that's just there to reward their friends. I mean, it's all a scheme, and it's all based on their name. And look how much they're worth, more than $100 million now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done nothing but public office.
Yeah. Well, and the way it works, I think it was in Schweitzer's book, Extortion, that he kind of explained how this whole racket works, where they're in on the legislative part of it. So they write the laws. So then they become the experts of how to work around them or work within them. And that's how they make the money on the lobbying side.
Yeah, absolutely. When you help write these rules, then you know exactly how it was worded and how you can get around it. It's a complete scam.
But you mean if we just get money out of politics, it won't fix everything?
No, of course not.
I just laugh because every time one of these debates comes up, I have a lefty list on Twitter that I watch on my tweet deck. And half of them are like, when are we going to talk about money in politics and how we're going to get it out? And it's just like, you guys have no idea how this all works, do you? Or you just want to claim that that's your one little silver bullet solution. We'll just get rid of the money. If we just got rid of Citizens United, which Hillary managed to bring up last night, which she's benefiting from.
Which I always love. I love it in the exact same sentence. She's talking about how we need the Supreme Court to overturn this. But Roe v. Wade, that's like the law of the land. Like, I love this disconnect. The Supreme Court ruled Roe v. Wade. You can't touch it. The Supreme Court ruled Citizens United. We got to destroy that. Like, this, either it's like the law of the land and it's the Supreme Court, or it's not. Like,
right.
It's picking and choosing.
My favorite part about her answer on the Supreme Court justice is that she would like to see appointed. The word Constitution never crossed her lips.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but it's just so blatant anymore. It's like they don't even pretend.
Yeah, who needs the Constitution when you're Hillary Clinton and you're in power? That's all that matters.
Hmm? Abe Lincoln actually said that.
Well, he did disregard it in certain aspects, but we can get into that on a different podcast.
It was actually a part of the lost paragraph of the Gettysburg Address. But Ash, the FDA has waged a war against the e-cig industry, and now you wrote that they're coming after our premium cigars.
Yeah, there was a rule that was passed in 2009 that cigars that have been made after, or invented, or put together after 2007 have to go through about pretty much 3 years worth of testing before they can go to market. And packaging is now going to have to be covered 30% on 2 surfaces with these giant warning labels, even though the FDA has released its own report showing that health risks from cigars are minimal, even with people who smoke 2 cigars a day, which... there's what, millions of cigar smokers out there. I'm pretty sure that the 2 a day cigar smoker, tiny percentage of that.
Yeah, they take a really long time.
It's got to be the Roger Ailes, Rudy Giuliani crew there. Pretty much whoever could fit into their cars, the 2 cigar a day. But they did this because they're trying to keep cigars away from children, which, obviously children already can't buy cigars because you have to be 18. But also, kids aren't buying cigars. Like, they're buying cigarettes. And cigarettes are easy, and like cigars just aren't the same because you don't inhale them. Mm-hmm. They take forever to make you sick. Like, I had to cut down my cigar smoking because that would make me so sick to my stomach. So, kids aren't going out with their little buddies to have cigar parties. Like, that's just not what's happening.
Well, let's face it, too. You look cool when you're 18 years old smoking a cigarette. You don't see 18-year-olds walking around smoking a punch cigar. It doesn't look cool at that age.
Right.
No, the only reason teenagers buy
like
cigars, right? Teenagers buy cigars to take them apart and then turn them into blunts. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
That's what they're for. But this is the same exact. Right. That's what they're called, Philly blunts, for a reason. But this is the same exact ruling, fingers, or the FDA. Yeah, the FDA regulation that applies to e-cigarettes. They also lumped in these cigars into that.
Yeah, but most people that I had seen talk about this were focusing on the e-cigs. Where, for those of us that like a fine cigar,
sure,
are just as
well. It was like
off.
the Tobacco Control Act of 2009 or something like this, which brought all of them under that rubric. Because before, the premium cigars weren't subjected to the same kind of scrutiny as cigarettes. That's fun times. They're coming to take all of our fun away.
That's right. Well, you can follow Ashe on Twitter at Ashe Schow, and of course you can read all of her work at the Washington Examiner and the New York Observer. Ashe, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you then.
Okay, we thought maybe we would have Ashe on for the entire show, but she had other things to do this evening, so we had to let her go earlier than we had hoped. So, well, what do you want to go back to, Tracy? Do you want to talk about more about the Trump tapes? Do you want to jump right into the debate?
Well, I mean, we haven't even talked about the VP debate. That all happened, too. This has been a long news week.
It has. My takeaway from the VP debate was obviously, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure that Tim Kaine is the clown that is walking around terrorizing everyone.
You stole my joke.
Oh, did I?
Did you come up with that independently?
That's hurtful.
No, I'm serious. Did we talk about this or no? Because I had mentioned that to some other folks. They're like, what can we do with this clown thing in a political context? And I said, check out Kaine's speaking schedule and see if the sightings line up.
I don't think you said that to me. If you did, we chat a lot. Maybe I stole your joke.
That's all right.
But I don't remember you saying that to me.
It's possible that I didn't. I do talk to other people aside from you, as shocking as that might seem.
But now you just accused me of being Dane Cook.
No, I accused you of Schumering me.
But I got a kick out of the amount of times that Kaine interrupted Pence. Because, because the whole brouhaha about the first debate was how much Trump was interrupting that delicate flower, Hillary Clinton, and wasn't allowing her to stay in her safe space. He kept trying to break into her safe space, Tracy Connors.
Oh, I hate when that happens. Also, I think you might want to rethink your use of the word brouhaha, because I just have to let you know that bruja in Spanish is witch. So I think that's gendered and offensive language.
Would you consider it sexual assault?
It's borderline.
Okay.
It's a micro sexual assault.
What's the Spanish word for words for trigger warning?
I don't know. I never learned any gun language, shockingly.
No, but that was my main takeaway. Because, look, it was boring.
I don't know. I always think it's excellent to watch somebody practice almost Zen calm in the face of crazy people.
Yeah.
Because it is fun when somebody's yelling at you to yell back, like your adrenaline gets pumping and you want to just take their heads off. But if you want to make somebody look like a complete fool, it's best just to stay calm and let them get out of control. So I thought Pence did an excellent job with that.
And I do believe, Mike Pence at one point, he was one of the first in Congress to start his own blog.
Oh, really?
Yes.
LiveJournal, or was this MySpace?
I don't know if it was LiveJournal, but when I interviewed him at CPAC about 5 years ago.
Oh, look at you, name dropping.
Well, he did say, and I think I've got the drop somewhere, well, that's an excellent question, Fingers. So I may have the Vice President of the United States saying, that was an excellent question, Fingers. He was very proud to say when I first started the interview that he used to be a blogger, and he also has talk radio experience.
Yes.
And a lot of people who do talk radio and people who take calls know that a lot of times when someone is a complete maniac on the phone, rather than shouting back at them, you give them just enough rope to hang themselves.
Yep. And it's a good tactic.
Yeah, and maybe that comes from his talk radio experience. Maybe obviously years of being a politician, but you're right. He was very calm. Kane was a maniac.
Yeah.
And really, Kane is perfect for that ticket. Because he's just as unlikable as Hillary Clinton. Like, would you want to go have a beer with Tim Kaine?
No. No, he's one of those people, he can't help it. He's kind of got the Ted Cruz face going on where you're just like, this guy gives me a creepy vibe.
Yeah.
Can't explain it, just does.
Would you like to have a beer with Hillary Clinton?
No, I do shots with her. I would, and that came out in the WikiLeaks stuff. There was some quote. I'll pull it up and we can get back to it when we come back to the debate stuff. But there was mention of her just downing shots, and how they thought it was a pandering thing. And one of her staffers was like, "Yeah, no." I'll find the actual quote for later, but I cracked up. I was like, "Oh, this is so perfect." We all know she's a booze hound. I mean, don't you remember them touting her foreign policy experience when she was running around the world? She went to 125 countries or whatever. And there was all these video clips. At one point, I had them compiled somewhere of her dancing in different countries,
right,
wearing strange garb and whatever. And I was like, nothing about this screams sobriety to me. Not that there's anything wrong with this. I enjoy drinking and dancing and all that stuff, but I'm also not the Secretary of State.
It's one of the few things that I find likable about Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely. If at the end of the debate last night, I feel like we're going to get sucked into debate talk now. When they asked, the final question was, what do you respect
for
most
sake.
about your opponent?
Yeah.
Well, Hillary's answer, of course, she couldn't find anything to say respectful about Donald himself.
Right.
So she said she respects his children, which is interesting. I mean, she could have said, I respect him as a father. He's raised incredible children, but she chose to just entirely lump the praise upon the children. Fine, whatever. I wanted so badly for him to say, I respect Hillary's ability to hold her booze. As a non-drinker myself, I can't even imagine what that's like, but I've been around a lot of drinkers in my life. She is top notch.
It's true. But can we go back to that question for a second?
Yeah.
And since this word has been used a lot the last several days, I'm going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
It confirms to me that the pussification of America is complete.
Well, they started it with a question like that, too. This lady stands up, basically, to summarize her, my children watch television and they're seeing this awful language. The first debate should have been rated TVMA for mature audiences only. And she's reading off a card, of course. Uh-huh. What are you going to do to make sure that our children aren't exposed to this horror in the future? It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Do you keep your children away from television after 8 p.m.? I mean, after 7 anymore with reruns of stuff that's on, regular just sitcoms and stuff like this. Give me a break.
I just can't imagine being able to sit in on a debate like that, having the honor of asking a question at a presidential debate. One of these two people will be the leader of the free world for 4 years, and what you come up with is, can you say something nice about each other? Please.
That affects my day-to-day life and all of my neighbors too.
Oh my, I saw that and I thought to myself, it's over. It's over. God damn it, Oprah, you ruined the country.
And we didn't even get cars out of it.
Right. Oh. That would have been great. Say something nice about each other. Yeah, she doesn't quit. And by the way, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Everybody gets a car. Great.
All those clunkers that were collected back in 2009 when we did that whole big scam cash for clunkers, we've got those still sitting on the sidelines. We're handing them out. First 25,000 down to the offices. Get one in the morning.
As angry as I've been throughout this whole 2016 election cycle, That question damn near pissed me off more than anything else I've heard throughout this entire campaign going back to the primaries. That is what you come up with?
Yep.
Can't we? This has just been so mean. This whole campaign, you guys have been at each other's throats. Can you say one thing nice about each other? Please? For the children?
You could have said she brought me a really nice wedding gift. All right, that's what I want him to say when she's off on these tangents about what a monster he is and how he shouldn't be anywhere near power or anything like this. Why'd you come to my wedding? So I tweeted this and some leftist idiot wrote, well, why did he invite her? It's like, do you really not understand how this all works? How if you're in the private sector and you need politicians in your pocket so you can get things done.
Right.
This is why you do that. They're all in the same kind of class. They run in the same circles.
Oh, yeah. He probably had the Clintons sitting at the same table as Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
Gingrich. You know, I mean, come on.
Well, and Chelsea and Ivanka are really, really good friends. Which is stunning to me. I don't know what the hell Ivanka would do with hanging out with her, but...
It really makes you wonder. I mean, I can't imagine... Well, I mean, before she got married and had kids, maybe she was fun. You know, maybe she hit the town and went out and had a good time because, let's face it...
Well, the Trump kids don't party, though. Or allegedly, this is what we're all told, that they don't carry on like that. But I do have to wonder, too, at a certain point when you're that famous, it's really difficult to trust anybody that wants to be your friend.
That's true. That's
just a civilian. So if you look at who can I hang around with that's not just hanging out with me to get privileged, then your social circle shrinks dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think Corey Feldman would be in your circle.
Yeah, poor Corey.
But it must... I will say this. I will say something kind about the Clintons. As much as I laugh at Chelsea when she says stuff like money doesn't matter to me, and then she has like a $25 million apartment in Manhattan.
With its own AR.
Yeah. She could have grown up to become a complete train wreck. I mean,
yes.
Everything, the recipe for that was there. Growing up in that White House during that time, she could have turned into a complete piece of shit.
There's still time for that, though.
That's true. But I'm guessing at this point that's probably not going to happen. Now, I did see on Twitter last night, if we're moving on to the debate, are we blowing by the sex tapes? Is that what the Trump?
Well, I mean, it comes up in the context of the debate, I guess. I just find them to be, yawn worthy. I'm not that surprised. I don't know that anybody is surprised that he talks like this.
I don't understand how, by someone saying something like that, what you just said, opponents of Trump immediately jump on those words and say, oh, you're defending them. I don't know anyone. Well, I can't say I don't know anyone because I have seen some people say, oh, he didn't say anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And look, here's my thing when it comes to what he said. It's piggish behavior. It's the kind of stuff that I heard from guys when I was in my early 20s. He said that when he was 59 years old. What 59-year-old man says stuff like that? I mean, isn't that odd?
Howard Stern?
Yeah, well, yeah, but he says it on the air.
Correct.
That's
I don't know. I think this is showing off and braggadocio, and I'm not applauding it by any means, but I started listening to Stern when I was in high school. Like, this stuff is passé compared to his show.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I'm a guy. I don't get offended. You know, when did it become a thing that guys get offended? Now, if he's talking about my daughter, I want to punch him in the face.
Sure.
I hear those words, I think he's a pig. But the pearl clutching that's going on, from men. You're a guy.
It's white knighting. White knighting, virtue signaling, garbage.
Jesus Christ.
Because they want to say, I would never talk like that. I'm safe.
Good Lord. I was thinking about some of the things I've said in my life. Thank God there wasn't a microphone around me.
As far as you know.
Right, as far as I know. Well, I doubt in my early 20s that there was a mic around me, but who knows? Maybe there was. You know, one of the things we used to say, I used to be a bartender, and when a hot girl would walk into the bar, one of the guys would say, I'd buy that for $1, going back to RoboCop. Did you ever see RoboCop?
No.
Oh. You're familiar with the movie RoboCop?
Yes.
There was a running gag on RoboCop of a bad TV show, and that was like the "What you talking about, Willis" line. Where this old guy would say, I'd buy that for $1, and he's usually around a bunch of hot women. Now, you put the context to that, and it's like, oh my God, he's objectifying women? And he's saying he could buy, he's pro-prostitution. He's a sexual predator.
Yep.
It's like, I know I'm taking this to the extreme, and it sounds ridiculous, but I think the whole thing is ridiculous. He's a pig. We all knew he was a pig. I'm not defending what he said. He's vulgar. And I still can't get over a 59-year-old man saying it. I mean, if you're around a guy, a man damn near eligible. In fact, he is eligible at that point, isn't he, to get an AARP card? Don't you have to be like 55 or something to get an AARP card?
I don't know. Does that mean you have to stop talking smutty? I don't get it. Is that one of the rules to join AARP?
I just don't get a man that old saying. I mean, this is the kind of stuff he's saying is the kind of stuff I heard in high school and in college.
Well, you spent a lot of time last summer up in Michigan with your pops and his crew?
Yeah.
Did they approach this kind of language at the bar at any point in time?
No, they did not say you need to grab a woman by her. I just said it earlier, by her pussy.
Right.
You know, they didn't say that, but it was funny. I would watch the old men. You know, there were at the tavern there were women that were bartenders, waitresses, and they were all very good looking and chesty. And one in particular would like to wash the glasses below the bar. You know, they got those sinks with the brushes already in them, and she would push her boobs together with her arms as she's washing the glasses. And all the, dirty old men would be staring, and she knows what she's doing, right?
Of course.
So I get by them, these old men lurking at this 20-something's boobs. Are they sexual predators, Tracy? I don't know. I don't know what the rules are
According
anymore.
to the left, yes. And also, you can't put anybody on a scale.
Oh.
This is incredibly offensive. This is unique to the Republican Party and the right and anybody that supports Trump. They're the only ones that have ever scaled anybody's looks. Just forget People magazine and their Sexiest Man Alive issues, it's just shorthand.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I've engaged in this kind of behavior. We didn't go 1 to 10. We had a more nuanced scaling that included both letters and numbers.
Oh, so you have your version of "I'd buy that for $1"?
Yeah, we actually appropriated it from our male friends and put it to use. I'm not kidding you.
You gonna go further into this?
Well, it's
Can
just
we hear the formula. What?
Oh, it was just silliness. It was anybody that was counted as an A in the A group was somebody that you would bang. They were bangable. And then it was on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the best. So an A1 was just like the equivalent of a 10.
Oh, okay.
And then I never understood why you even bothered giving numbers to those that fell into the Bs, which were the untouchables. But they did. And I think there was something that they had a sliding scale based on drinks that then Bs could get elevated over into the A category. But as women don't really go for that all that much.
Yeah, 10 o'clock versus 2 o'clock.
Sure.
10 p.m. versus 2 a.m.
Oh, okay. I get you. Well, that's another scale, fingers, that I don't know if it's appropriate for this. But so, yeah, right. That was the scale. A1 to 5, B1 to whatever. And then, of course, you know, the 10 to 11 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 12 to 15 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 13 to 14 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 14 to 16 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 15 to 16 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 16 to 18 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 17 to 18 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 18 to 20 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 20 to 21 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 21 to 23 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 23 to 24 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 24 to 25 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 25 to 27 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 27 to 28 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 28 to 29 scale. And then, of course, you know, the 29 to 30 scale. And then, B1 to 5. I never engaged it. For women, it's just like A's and B's pretty much.
Gentlemen, you just got a peek into the female mind.
Some of it can slide. I will tell you that I have girlfriends that would be like, oh, man, there was a B last night. And you're just like, oh, no. Why? Why?
Now, did you have any friends that went down into the D range?
No.
No.
I mean, sometimes when it was like a really bad one, then they would just start, adding new letters into the equation. But the two categories was always just A and B.
Yeah. No, but there just seems to be obviously a lot of hypocrisy going on from the left. Before Barack Obama got elected in 2008, the two leaders of the Democratic Party were Ted Kennedy and Bill Clinton.
Uh-huh.
Ted
Predators.
Kennedy, yes. Ted Kennedy and the waitress sandwich. Ted Kennedy of, you know what?
Wasn't that with Chris Dodd, too?
I believe so.
Who's a disgusting pig bee.
And, of course, going back to Chappaquiddick.
Yep.
Chappaquiddick.
Yeah.
It's Chappaquiddick, isn't it?
Yeah, wait, you're making me think of Chappaqua, which is where the Clintons live now.
Chappaquiddick lets a chick drown in his car because he's worried about how it'll affect him.
Mm-hmm. Totally legit.
I mean, to see these people get on their soapboxes and condemn what Trump said, it's laughable to me. I can, I've got some Christian friends on the right that are completely disgusted by it, and I cut them some slack. I get that. They aren't
sure if they actually live this way.
Yeah, they didn't grow up listening to Howard Stern like you and I did, you know. And if they have a problem with that, I get it. He's a dick. He's a pig. He is.
Yeah.
Now you just have to ask the question. One guy, and Tony Katz put this on his Facebook. Trump's vulgar. Clinton is a two-faced liar. Your move, America.
Pretty much.
I mean, you can vote third party, which I struggle with because, as you know, I was on the Gary Johnson train. And by the way, if you want to get into Kennedy tearing Bill Weld a new one last week, we can get into that a little bit too. And then you've got people that insist that the only person you can vote for is this Evan McMullin. McMuffin.
It's the easiest thing to remember.
Here's what I find so comical about that. Is first of all, he's on the ballot in like 11 states.
I thought I saw one of our friends, and put that in air quotes, which you can't hear, saying he's on 40 ballots or something.
I believe he's only on 11, but certain states you can't just write in anyone's name.
Oh, really?
No.
Because I have voted for myself more than once.
Oh, no, I believe he is an official write-in candidate. Between being on the ballot and being an official write-in candidate, he is in something like in the high 30s, as far as I know. But then he goes ahead last week and adds some woman to the ticket that I had never heard of, but a lot of our politicos, our friends inside the movement, were doing handstands when he made the announcement. I think her name is Molly Flynn or Molly Finn or something.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, I've never heard of her. I wonder what she does for a living. She's a consultant. This shows you how out of touch these people are. In 2016, they think that the road to success is adding a consultant to the ticket.
Yeah. That's on, like you said, a handful of ballots.
Yeah.
It's going to make absolutely no difference, but they can feel good about themselves. This is what it all comes down to.
That's what it's all about.
I won't be embarrassed. I saw one of them say this. Here's a ticket you won't be embarrassed of voting for. Really? The biggest losers? Jill Stein is going to get more votes than them.
Yeah.
And she's a crazy crackpot. She is.
Oh, yeah.
I respect her. She's a full-on commie, and she makes no bones about it. But come on, people. Embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you guys. It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. They think that they're going to be the ones that they believe that Trump is just going to crash and burn and the Republican Party is going to fall into chaos and they're somehow going to be the ones that resurrect it.
Well, they may be right.
It's possible. I mean, I think both parties are destroyed at this point.
Well, yeah, look, and this is why I left last year and why I find this all very amusing. Say Trump does crash and burn. Who's going to be left to pick up the pieces? Mitch McConnell. Paul Ryan. Who, if you would have told me that 6 years ago, Paul Ryan, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell. And the same people over the last 2 decades that have created this mess. They're going to take the easy way out. They're going to look for the easy answers, and they're going to say the voters were stupid.
Yeah.
And they're going to dismiss many of the issues that Donald Trump has pushed in this campaign as just saying, well, you know what? It was a cult of personality. The voters are stupid. We know what's best for America. And the Republican Party is going to continue to go down the toilet because of that attitude and because of that mentality. Because, quite frankly, if you go based on, if you develop policy, if you develop an agenda based on polling, the top 10 issues, if you would have, they craft questions to get the answers that they want, and then they push that agenda. We were told before Trump got into the campaign, and as Trump announced, that immigration wasn't an issue that was important to the American people.
Yeah.
The polling shows they don't mention immigration. They don't mention immigration because they know that both parties don't give a shit about immigration.
Yeah.
They're completely apathetic. But if you have a candidate who they believe actually cares about immigration and actually cares about border security, that's a huge issue. And Trump has proven that. And that's one of the things that we talked about on Snark that's really amazing to me, is to me that first Republican debate where you had 16 and a half. What was the viewership on that first Republican debate? It was huge.
Oh, I want to say it was like 35 or 40 maybe million.
40 million people. And I said before that debate, one of these people, one of these candidates has to be the sane Donald Trump. He has to take these issues that Trump has been talking about and make it palatable to all of these people that are just tuning in to see the Trump show. So while they're listening to that candidate, they would be like, oh, you know what? I could vote for that guy, or I could vote for that woman. But all of them want to dismiss some of these issues, you know, regarding immigration, regarding trade. And to me, especially with the trade issue, and, you know, anybody listening to this show, if I start saying anything about trade that doesn't go along with the standard Republican line, then it's, oh, you're against free trade. It's a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not against free trade. But you have to go into communities in the Rust Belt that had a thriving manufacturing base, that have seen that base completely disappear, and act like you have some sort of plan to bring jobs back into those communities. You can't just ignore it and hope that it goes away and think that these people will be satisfied with your platform if you offer them a tax cut. It has to go further than that, because I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. Saginaw, Michigan, in the early 70s, was a thriving manufacturing town that had well over 100,000 people living there. Now they've got, their population is about 40,000, and they have one manufacturing plant in the automotive industry that's still doing something, and it's a fraction of the size that it used to be. What are you going to tell those people? You can't ignore them. You've ignored the African American community for decades, and what has that done? You've just written that vote off. Now it seems like you are hell-bent on writing off towns in the Rust Belt that have seen their jobs go away for a number of reasons, and not all of them is because of NAFTA. Some of it was poor management. Some of it was poor, management within the community. Towns run by Democrats running businesses out of town. There are a number of reasons, but you can't ignore them for 4 years and then say, "Well, I got a plan. I'm gonna cut taxes," and that's it. Sorry, didn't mean to go on a rant there, but
no, you're right.
So you got to come up with you can't just get up there, because I still remember when I live in Indianapolis now, and when Carrier, the air conditioning manufacturer decided they were going to close the plant here in Indianapolis and move that work to Mexico, I saw friends of mine who live in Washington, D.C., one in particular, say, well, these people just have to realize their jobs are out of date. And I read that and I thought, wow, that's our message now?
Yeah, sorry, you lose.
What happened to we need to make this country more business friendly?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to we need to cut regulations, and we need to, Jack Kemp talked about enterprise zones back in the 80s. All that's gone now. I mean, you hear some Republicans talk, oh, we need to cut regulations, but how many times are we going to hear that? And then have it not happen? How many times are we going to have some sap get up at a debate or in a major speech and say, I want to make it to the point where you can fill out your tax return on a postcard and mail it into the IRS? How long have we been hearing that? And nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So here go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I want you to finish your rant.
Well, so here you got a guy coming along who is a flawed candidate. Everybody knows it. He's a pig. Many times when he speaks, when he's answering a question, it's a complete word salad. And you're like, does he know what he's talking about? I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. But he's hit on a few core issues that people are so passionate about. Immigration and, right or wrong, they're on, the trade issue. They're against TPP. They're against NAFTA. And the Republican Party just wants this guy to go away and have it be business as usual. Well, I'm sorry. Going back to the original statement you made, the party's going to die if that's what you're going to do.
It's dead.
Yeah.
I think it's been dead. And the problem is these people don't want to take responsibility for anything that they've been a part of. They would like to act as if they didn't have a hand in all of this stuff, that they weren't involved in this for decades to get us to this point. And that's why I don't think any politician if any other politician had won the Republican nomination, that they would have been able to do what Trump's been able to do. You can't point at Hillary Clinton if you've been there as well and say, you've been there for 30 years, lady. Why should we believe you now? That you've got all these solutions that you've just been sitting on? Well, that's kind of upsetting.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Oh, you've been there for 30 years and you weren't able. And he kind of hit her with that. And it was just like, well, he went after her on the tax issue last night as he tried to play that game like, you haven't. It's possible. I think that was the word that she used. It's possible that he didn't pay for 20 years. So, okay, great. And so he comes back and slams her and says, no, I've paid hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. And here's the deal. She was there. If she doesn't like these tax loopholes, being able to take deductions and being able to do write-offs, which all of her friends benefit from, and he went through a laundry list of names, including Warren Buffett and George Soros, then she could have done something about it.
Right.
She was in the Senate. Why didn't she? This shows me that she doesn't have leadership. She can't get people rallied behind this. Either that or she wants her friends to benefit from this. And that's the real answer. They know how this game all works, and they've got it rigged for them.
That's right.
It's fine. So no one else from the Republican Party that spent any time in political office could say something like this. And that's why I don't think people are going to care that, oh, my God, he said some dirty stuff. Give me a break. And he turned it brilliantly at the very beginning of the debate, which he started out kind of slow. And I was like, oh, God, is this going to be low energy again? They dumped the tape on him, and he finally said, there's serious things going on in the world, like ISIS running around beheading people. I would like to talk about that. And it's just priorities, people, priorities. Like, I keep saying this to people that are just so offended by what Trump says. I'm like, my God. Like, Hillary's body count, Hillary's bank account. These things should be discussed. How do you get so rich? And he said that to her, too. You've amassed a small fortune in your public service days. Isn't that interesting? And why aren't you using any of your own money to fund your campaign? You're going to sit here and decry things like Citizens United. Why aren't you funding your campaign if you believe that we should keep money out of politics? You have the money to do it. It's a good question. Mm-hmm. But nobody else would be able to say that because they would have all been bankrolled by someone.
Right. But, of course, they wouldn't have the baggage that Trump has.
Maybe not. Who knows?
They would figure out new baggage. I mean, like you said to Ashe, say what you want about Mitt Romney, and I disagree with Mitt Romney on a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I believe deep down, he's a decent man. And they made him out to be they made him out to be a monster. I mean, he was going around cutting kids' hair, bullying them in school. Yes. He would, strap his pet to the roof of his car and drive 95 miles an hour down the highway. The binder's full of women. The 47% of the people won't vote for me. I mean, they made him out to be a monster.
Remember, he killed that man's wife by taking away his job and health insurance. There was nobody that was getting through this on the right unscathed by the left. They have nothing is going to keep them from turning you into the devil. Because they really do believe that.
Oh, I know. You're seeing it right now with with these Trump tapes. Once again, you're seeing a bunch of people still playing out the primary like it's still a thing. And I'm sorry. You cannot tell me with a straight face that Marco Rubio is the answer when he came in fourth in his own state.
Mm-hmm. No, and he's got plenty of baggage, too, that they kind of dug up in the primary.
Yeah, that's true, too.
And he's also a career politician, which nobody is interested in at this point that's supporting Trump, at least I think. That's my take on this. This is the regular, everyday people that are just sick of being talked down to by the political class. And they're saying, no, F you. I don't care if he talks like that. I don't care at all. You guys are a bunch of mobsters, and we're sending in our ringer to clear you out.
It just amazes me. What is it about a billionaire that makes you crazy? I mean, why does it have to be this guy? I mean, really, you go back to the mid-'90s when Perot ran in 92 and 96. Mm-hmm. He's batshit crazy. But there's a good possibility if he hadn't pulled out of the race after the Democratic Convention in 92, he may have been president of the United States.
Sure. But I think at that point, once you've amassed a fortune like that, you've had to put up with so much bullshit from these people from Washington, doing everything they can to stick their hands in your pockets and steal from you and just cut you off at every pass, make your life more difficult, that you just, at some point, you just snap.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to you, and I'm not going to talk about the size of the check that I had to write this quarter to the federal government, but it was hefty, and I was furious.
As well you should be.
And I can't imagine stroking checks for hundreds of millions of dollars to the federal government when they're just going to waste it away. And then you have to turn on the television and see them talking about you not paying your fair share. At a certain point, people are going to get pissed. And they either just suck it up and figure out a way to avoid paying as much as they can. People like Warren Buffett and Hillary Clinton and Bill themselves that took, the biggest write-offs they could, which is what anybody would do. If you can avoid getting robbed, you're going to avoid it. This is just common sense. But at a certain point, you just have to say, forget it. I've had enough of you guys. I'm definitely not getting my money's worth. I have no say in this. You've legalized theft, and now you've made it to be patriotic duty of some sort or another. This is absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that to me explains why somebody that's a billionaire would snap.
The federal government is a 2 million person strong crime family.
It's true.
I mean, and then they have rules that they make that if you're in the family, you can break the rules.
Oh, sure. They circle the wagons for you. And I think that will end up being the most talked about clip of the debate when she said something along the lines of, I'm glad that someone with your temperament isn't in charge of overseeing the law, how the laws in this country are administered. And he came back with, yeah, because you'd be in jail. And it's true. Everybody knows this. Even the people that are still kind of running around being like, well, because she's not getting prosecuted, therefore she didn't commit any crimes. No.
Well, and that's some of the things that you saw last night. Dana Bash.
She pronounces it Dana.
Dana. Okay. I'm Fingers. Dana Bash was saying post-debate, oh my gosh, he wants to throw his political prisoners in jail. It's like Hitler and Stalin. Stalin?
His political opponents. Yeah.
Stalin?
Yeah.
Stalin?
No, she probably says Stalin.
Stalin?
Yes. Yeah. Well, first of all, Stalin didn't throw anybody in jail. They just summarily executed them. Right? I mean, Saddam did the same kind of thing. But yeah, I saw that on the left. There was a Daily Kos headline that came out, threatening to jail political opponents isn't normal and needs to be condemned. Well, here's a fun flashback for you, right? From the Philly.com, April 14th, 2008. The headline is, Obama would ask his attorney general to immediately review potential crimes in the Bush White House. Mm-hmm. And they have a quote from Obama basically saying that he's going to, he says, what I want to do is to have my Justice Department and my attorney general immediately review the information that's already there and to find out, are there inquiries that need to be pursued? Mm-hmm. That hurts, huh? So he wanted to prosecute George Bush and Dick Cheney and the whole lot of them. I remember the left being rabid about this in 2008. Like, we're going to bring them up on war crimes, tribunal, all this stuff.
Yeah, you had some people talking about citizens arrest.
Yeah.
Citizens arrest.
Sure.
Get that.
But I mean, there's something going on with the FBI. The fact that they let them destroy their laptops.
Yes.
The fact that they gave everybody immunity. And then they let, including Cheryl Mills, who is sometimes just Hillary's friend, and then at other times she's our consigliere, and she's allowed to be in on these interviews when she's given immunity. I mean, it reeks. It absolutely reeks. And there's been rumblings that there are people in the FBI that are ready to mutiny. You know, I think I told you I saw, and I can't find the clip for the life of me. Somebody had tweeted it. So I don't know when it came out, but there's video where Judge Napolitano is doing like a 2-minute little thing on Fox, and he's saying it's his contention that these leaks, I think it was he was speaking specifically about the DNC leaks, that they didn't come from Russian hackers, that they actually came from the NSA, from inside the NSA, because the national security apparatus is so worried about Hillary and her just flagrant mishandling of classified information, endangering everybody, including agents in the field, that they are willing to put this stuff out in the hopes that it will tank her. And that to me makes more sense than like, no, the hacking. And then Trump actually had a great line last night about this. He's like, we don't even know that it was a hack. And it's true. It's like, it's called WikiLeaks, guys.
Right.
Not WikiHacks. These are people that come to them. These are whistleblowers. Like, how else do you get your hands on documents? I mean, yes, you can hack in and find this stuff, but my God.
It's sexier to say that the Russians did it.
Well, it's insane. I mean, she's almost openly advocating for war with Russia. And the foreign policy is so muddled. And I thought Trump did a really great job hitting her on this, too, with Syria. And, Hillary's just like, let's arm these rebel groups. Well, we don't know who these people are, which is a legitimate criticism of this. Because if anybody's paid attention to this history, we armed what became Al-Qaeda in the 80s to fight the Russians.
Yeah, enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Right. It's really not a good idea to go around arming random rebel groups, especially in this part of the world. You never know what they're going to turn around and do.
Right.
So he made that point. And then he didn't slam her on something that I thought he could have very easily, because she's sitting there touting, they keep acting like she's the one that brokered this Iranian deal, which I think most of us agree is garbage and was silly. But that was done under Kerry. But she's taking credit for it, or at least that's how Keynes kind of presented it in the VP debate. But now she's saying, the Iranians have aligned with the Russians and Assad, and this is no good. And it's like, wait a minute, lady. Are they our friends or are they not our friends? This is so muddled and confusing that I would rather just get the hell out of there. But Hillary's coming in, and she's not putting boots on the ground, fingers, mind you.
Right.
Never a boot, an American-made boot, is touching that damn ground. Mm-hmm. But you sure as shit bet we're going to send special forces to do all kinds of airstrikes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just stunning. And the idea, too, that they keep pretending that ISIS only exists in Iraq and Syria is laughable. Trump dropped in there last night. ISIS is active now in 32 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they want to pretend that it's just isolated to this one little pocket. It's like it's so infuriating.
ISIL.
Oh, and you missed, because I know you haven't seen it, I bet you missed the question where they had some woman stand up and say, I'm a Muslim and I want to talk about Islamophobia and what you're going to do to tamp down on Islamophobia in the United States. And it's just like, oh my God, I swear I'm going to sprain my eyeballs rolling my eyes as much as I have been.
Where are all these attacks on Muslim citizens in this country?
I don't know. The FBI puts out something called the Uniform Crime Report, which I found out about in college because, as you may or may not know, I majored in criminal justice. This was the first time I was acquainted with it. But you can go in there and they keep hate crime stats now because those are a thing. And if you want to look at it, you can break it down by religious background and who's attacked based upon their religion as best as can be told. Do you want to know which religious minority in the United States is victimized the most?
Oh, it has to be the Jews.
Absolutely. Far and away.
So did they have someone stand up last night as a Jewish American and ask about all the anti-Semitism in this country?
No.
That didn't happen?
No, and if you look at the history of just even the word Islamophobia, I believe it came out of a Muslim Brotherhood-funded think tank. Well, it's an effective way to shut people down.
Sure.
It goes up there with, it's the basket of deplorables that Hillary talked about. The Islamophobes, the xenophobes, the homophobes, the whatever-ophobes, the phonophobes. It's just absurd. But yeah, these are the questions that are on everybody's minds.
Mm.
What are we going to do about this rampant Islamophobia?
Well, you can't have someone stand up and ask that question about anti-Semitism because then Donald Trump would pull out a picture of Pepe the Frog and they'd be off and running, right?
Of course. And I'm sure I haven't seen it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that Ivanka's dress that she wore last night, which was absolutely stunning, and I'm furious, and it wasn't one from her line because her line is affordable. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name of the designer, but I think I saw the dress was a $2,800 dress. So that's right out the window for me, but it was beautiful. It was green with black piping, and I love black and green together. But I'm sure that was a nod to Pepe, even though that she's converted. You know, the Jews are like the only religion on the planet where they don't proselytize and try to get people to convert. Mm-hmm. But she did convert. And yet somehow Trump is a raging anti-Semite. He's got Jewish grandchildren, a Jewish daughter. I want to say one of his other kids might have converted as well, but I know for a fact that she has.
Yeah, her husband's Jewish.
Yes, he owns the New York Observer.
Mm.
Yeah. But nope, I'm sure that was a subtle nod to the Pepe crowd wearing that frog green.
Well, can I ask you this question, Tracy?
Sure.
Honors, because there has been a lot of things that have been said during this podcast that have been mean. A lot of anger been thrown around. Can you say one thing nice about Pepe the Frog? Is there one thing you admire about Pepe you'd like to share with us?
Nothing comes to mind. I'm sorry. I have nothing nice to say about a symbol that embodies hate in the same way that the swastika did.
I can answer that question.
Okay,
I admire the fact that Pepe never quits.
Good for you.
Pepe does have a heart filled with hate, but at the end of the day, when he gets knocked down, he gets right back up and he never quits. Tracy.
So the Chubbawamba song was actually written about Pepe. I did see the memes that came out of last night are just unbelievably funny. Mm-hmm. And one that I saw that I haven't sent to you yet, because this is what we do behind the scenes here as show prep, as we send each other funny pictures. But it was the fly that landed on Hillary during all of this. And there was a meme with Pepe taking care of that fly for her, but licking it off of her face. Oh, I died.
What a shit show. It just is amazing to me. You know, I think you were in the same boat I was in last year. I was like, okay, it's Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson. It's going to be Gary Johnson. I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson.
Until we heard him start talking.
It's like every candidate in this race is competing to be the shittiest.
Yeah.
It's like, you're shitty? Oh, I can be shittier. You think you're shitty? I can be the shittiest. I mean, like you said, Jill Stein is bat shit crazy. Bat shit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Johnson isn't a libertarian.
Correct.
But he's running as a libertarian. And then you got Bill Weld pretending to be a libertarian.
And he made our dear friend Kennedy, someday we'll be friends with her.
Yeah.
Angrier than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen her look mad. She has a great disposition, and I've seen her go after people, and she can kind of do it in a jovial manner. But she knows her shit, so you really shouldn't cross her.
Right.
But that interview she had with Bill Weld was unbelievable. You could tell she was grinding her teeth.
Ripped him
because she
apart.
was so furious. And he deserves it.
Yes.
They both deserve that. And she's been giving them a platform. She's had Gary Johnson on her show numerous times and kind of poo-pooed it. She hasn't been as grotesquely in the tank for him as I've seen some other people be, where it's just like, oh my God, he's wonderful. We can do no wrong. He's great. This is perfect. You know, he's palatable. Let's soft pedal these ideas instead of taking a hard stance in a year where people are anxious for change and want to hear something different. And hear someone like say stuff like Trump did, where you go, this is a criminal organization here, the federal government. And this corruption is rampant. It runs through every single federal department that there is.
And what did Gary Johnson say? She's a great public servant?
She's a wonderful public servant.
You hear
Get
that?
the fuck out of here.
Oh, so you hear that and he's like, okay, he's shitty. Trump's shitty.
Yeah.
And then the Grand Poobah's shitty to the point where you had a fly land on her face last night at the debate. And, of course, she didn't feel it because I'm not sure she actually has skin on her skull at this point, Tracy. I think it's some sort of space-age polymer or something that is flapped over her skull. The Botox, the whole nine. She's the queen bee of shit.
Mm-hmm. She's the shit lordess.
Yeah.
If you will. No, but she is absolutely the worst. Like, I can't imagine that. I don't know. I guess there are people that do not believe that still.
No, they don't.
To this day.
They're the same. They believe in the same things. And they may very well be right. At the end of the day, Trump and Hillary Clinton may believe in the same things. You know, Trump's conversion to what, I guess he calls himself a conservative now. It just happened in the last few years. So it's quite possible that Hillary and Donald Trump believe in a lot of the same things. But he doesn't have body count, as far as I know. Does he?
Sure. Not that I know of. Although I'm told it's possible that there were some accidents on his construction sites.
I mean, you go back and listen to Christopher Hitchens talk about Hillary Clinton.
Oh, it's epic.
Just Google or YouTube some videos. I mean, going back to the Clinton administration and the whole Bosnia extravaganza, where Les Aspin, the department, the Secretary of Defense, wanted to go in there earlier than they did, and according to Hitchens, Hillary pushed back against that because it would interfere with her fantastic health care plan.
Sure.
It would put that on the back burner. You go back.
Can't have that.
No. And you know a lot more about some of the other stuff, going into Central America. Mm-hmm. And of course the Haiti thing. I mean, they're horrible, horrible people. And Trump is a horrible person. But I just can't put him in that category. I'm sorry. So now it's a situation where you sit back, you're like, okay, I can vote for batshit crazy, who's not going to win, and I don't agree with her at all. I can vote for the guy who says he's a libertarian, but he's a shitty candidate who's not a libertarian, and the things that come out of his mouth are just unbelievable to me. Then you go to the Republican who shit comes out of his mouth. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about half the time, but he's the only guy that can keep that really big piece of shit out of the White House. So those are your choices.
Yeah. And I think it was Coulter that said this, and I believe I've said it before on this, but Trump is a bullshitter. Hillary is a liar. There's a huge difference between the guy that lies about how big the fish was that he caught and the woman that lies about catching any fish at all.
Yeah.
She's a straight up liar, and she's a sociopath. And he was able to introduce the fact that she defended a rapist and laughed about getting him off. And the left is running around like screaming well, she wasn't laughing about getting it. She was laughing about, no. And you have to take a case and blah, blah, blah. Like, who would defend these indefensibles? Well, no, you don't have to take their case. There's nothing that forces an attorney to take a case. We don't have such a law in this country, period. You can walk away and say, you know what, I really want to devote my career of public service to protecting women and children. So I think I should probably not defend a guy that raped a 12-year-old. Nope.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw one of the OJ lawyers.
Yes.
And I don't even know how many of them are still alive at this point. Because, Johnny Cochran died, right?
Yeah, and Kardashian died. I don't know if Shapiro's still alive. Sheck is still alive.
Okay. So say you got...
Ashley Bailey may or may not, but go ahead. Well, and what's his name that's out supporting Hillary? Dershowitz. He's still alive.
Okay. Let's go with Sheck.
Yeah.
You see Sheck on TV talking about the OJ case and laughing his ass off that he got OJ off. Mm-hmm. And what kind of person would you think Sheck is?
A vile piece of shit.
So, rewind back then. Okay, she took the case. I'll follow along with their logic. Okay, these people need lawyers just like anyone else that's accused of a crime. You get them off. Not a euphemism. You don't laugh about it after the fact. You just say, I had a job to do and I did it. And that's the end of it. Don't tell me I can't judge that person based on... If we're going to judge Donald Trump on a private conversation on a tape 11 years ago, and I can only imagine what doozies we have coming up in the next month.
Oh, there's more to come. Make no mistake. This is what they're going to do.
This is all they have.
Sure.
But if we can judge him based on those remarks in 2005, certainly we can judge her for cackling over getting a rapist off. Not
getting evidence thrown out, laughing at how unreliable lie detectors are. Yeah. Because she knew for a fact that he had done it, or she was convinced herself that he was guilty of it. And I mean, I struggle with this. There was a time when I thought I would be an attorney. And I thought, how the hell would I defend somebody that I knew had done something wrong? And it just was like, I couldn't do that.
Right.
Especially not something so heinous.
What was she, 12 at the time?
She was 12.
Victim? Not Hillary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was 12 years old.
12 years old.
And she, made her out to be a trampy 12-year-old.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this is just, they're just vile, and they have a history of doing this kind of stuff. And Trump did say that we're talking about words versus actions. And I may have said some stuff, but these two, Hillary and Bill over here, have done some stuff. And the one screen grab of Bill from last night is so priceless. I hope that meme never goes away, where it's just like his oh shit face, because they had his victims and then that poor woman Kathy Shelton, was the 12-year-old, sitting in the audience, and they're just looming over them. You tell me what other Republican would have ever had the balls to do that?
Right.
None of them. They've laid off the Clintons forever. And it's because anybody that tried to cross them just got destroyed.
Well, I mean, look how McCain ran his race against Barack Obama in 2008.
Mm-hmm. No, we can't get into this. I mean, the Democrats recognize this for what it is. This is cold civil war. For the most part, there's nobody, dropping dead except those people that accidentally end up killing themselves by shooting themselves in the back of the head multiple times. But they look at it as a war. 2 different guns. Yeah. And no powder burns on the hand that fired at Vince Foster.
Well, that happened.
It's been known. Absolutely. But they recognize it as a war, and they treat it as such. And the right has always just kind of been polite about it. Well, we have to work with these people.
We're better than that. Can't we be better than them? Well, yeah, I agree with you. We should be better than them. But at the end of the day, well, I don't want to even go that far because I still struggle with it. I don't. He's such a dick.
He is.
But she's worse.
She's way worse. She's got a history of being just god awful.
But Republicans bail quickly.
Sure.
Meanwhile, Democrats will rally around a man. Think about this. Rally around a man that drove his car off a bridge into a lake and left a woman in that car to die. And he was the lion of the Senate.
Only to be second to him was the Grand Cyclops, Mr. Robert Byrd.
Yeah, and they circle the wagons.
Yep. Oh, he's changed. He found Jesus because Hillary lent him the Bible that she keeps in her purse next to the hot sauce. I mean, it's just disgusting.
But they knew. I mean, they know this is what Republicans do. They fold. They don't circle the wagons, and that's fine. If you want to stay above the fray,
then you should get out of politics.
Yeah.
Honestly, because what she will bring in along with her it's just unimaginable how corrupt the levers of power will become. Like, look at how bad it's gotten under Obama.
Yeah.
And he came in with not much of a record on this. If we elect an openly corrupt, conniving, disgusting piece of shit like her, just imagine what that does to the rest of the apparatus. Like it just, I read last week Robert Cialdini's new book, Persuasion. And he discussed in there the idea of cultures of corruption within organizations and how that affects the workforce there. And they have done a couple studies on this, that people that work in places where it's okay to kind of skirt the rules and do things that are nefarious and cross the lines, that trickles down throughout the entire organization. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and I was like, well, this explains the federal government.
Yeah.
100%. This is why you have stuff at every single organization there. And the Republicans can't even get rid of the people that were responsible for the VA stuff. Those guys should be in jail. All of their assets should be stripped from them, the people that got bonuses while veterans are waiting for care and dying in the process, and they've given themselves a bonus. Get the hell out of here. You're all fired and you're all off to jail, and we're taking every penny. Every penny. And then you've got the IRS guy. They won't even impeach the head of the IRS.
How many people got fired after 9/11?
I don't remember if any did.
I don't
think any did. No.
No, you look at the Environmental Protection Agency, which is, a complete mess and run by the left. And they're coming out with ridiculous regulations that most people don't even know about. There's a black market for gas cans because of the new EPA-approved gas cans.
Well, and shower heads and all kinds of crap.
And for the most part, people on the right, while they're annoyed by this, can at least kind of, we can get on with our day because it's the EPA. When you start talking about the IRS and the FBI, where we at least kind of in the, we wanted to believe that they weren't political and, and it goes with the Department of Justice as well, that people were treated the same when you're a Republican or a Democrat. You want to believe that, but now that is completely out the window. We know that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, justice is no longer blind. Justice is strapped on social justice warrior goggles, so everything is seen through those lenses. We're in a lot of trouble, and even if Hillary isn't elected, I don't know if it's possible to clean up the FBI, the IRS. Forget the EPA. I'd like the EPA eliminated. Right.
Wonderful.
But that's the easiest way to clean it up.
Yeah, but Republicans wouldn't do that.
No.
You telling me President Jeb Bush would eliminate the Environmental Protection Agency?
Oh, we can't do that. That's irresponsible.
I like clean water and clean air. We'll reform it.
Yes. They just need more money. And maybe some more supervision from the Government Accountability Office.
This election's a shit show. And part of me doesn't really care who wins. Because it really doesn't matter. And people will hit me up. Oh, it doesn't matter. Honestly, and we said this back in the snark days. If Mitt Romney would have won the election in 2012 and say he had a Republican Congress, do we think that there would have been a full repeal of Obamacare? Or would they have just tried to fix it? They would have tried. We hate a lot about Obamacare, but that I think it's okay that a kid who's under the age of 40 can stay on his parents' health insurance. We kind of like that. So,
yeah.
Okay.
The pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, pre-existing conditions. I mean, over and over again, we've heard the first thing that these Republicans like Mitch McConnell want to do to Obama, we got to get rid of that medical device tax.
Yep. That's the real fly in the ointment there. Everything would be smooth sailing without that. A bunch of garbage. And they did actually have a question about Obamacare last night.
And it was a good question.
Which was a shocker. Yeah, it was decent.
I mean, this guy said, or was it a woman? I can't remember. Costs are up. Care is down. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. No, and Hillary had the gall to say something like, we now have 90% of people are covered. I'm like, where are they getting these numbers? They just make shit up. And then she's going to run around and say, we Trump hits her with a litany of stuff that I know to be true about her. And then she's just like, you guys should check the fact checkers on this one. Like, that's her defense.
Yeah.
But it's just stunning that there's no pushback. And it's hard, I understand, in soundbite culture. She's like, well, 20 million people got insurance under this. Okay. Well, we were told anywhere between 40 and 50 million people didn't have. Correct? Before this, right. The numbers fluctuated somewhere in there. And then there were a whole bunch of people that lost it because of this, even though we were told nobody was going to lose anything. So a whole bunch of people lost it. I don't know what that number is. So how many of that 20 million were people that had it and lost it because of you guys, and now you're counting them into your success story?
Tracy, the average family was supposed to save $2,500.
Uh-huh.
And if you liked your doctor, you're going to be able to keep your doctor. If you liked your plan, you were going to be able to keep your plan. And then you had an Obamacare advisor who said we were completely bullshitting people.
Which Trump brought up. He talked about Gruber.
Which, of course, Gruber learned that lesson from Abraham Lincoln, who said you need a private stance and a public stance.
Oh, that's true. But I love that Hillary fear-mongered this, right? Oh, we can't possibly turn it back over to those evil insurance companies. Hold up, bitch. You guys are the ones that crafted this genius plan that forced everybody to buy from those evil guys to begin with.
Yes.
How does this make any sense to the normal people that are looking at this? I don't know why people can't cut through the bullshit, because I've been saying this again and again and again to my lefty friends who demonize the insurance industry. Hi, if you hate them, then you should not want all of us forced to buy stuff from them.
Right.
Do you get that? Like, I get it. You guys hate things like Walmart and Chick-fil-A and anybody else that doesn't toe the line for you, even though the Walmart family pretty much does, and Hillary sat on their board. But whatever, let's just go with Chick-fil-A then. We hate Chick-fil-A. What if they said everybody has to go buy Chick-fil-A once a week? You'd be furious, right?
Absolutely.
But for some reason, demonize the insurance companies for years. And now all of a sudden they're wonderful because Obama said so. And we have to go buy crap from them. And now you're mad because they couldn't keep costs down, even though anybody that was looking at this realistically said costs are going to get out of control. Because there are people that are just going to now take advantage of this system and abuse it and go to the doctors repeatedly. It's like Medicare and Medicaid where they pay a fraction of the cost, and then that all gets pushed over onto the private market to cover up for the losses. It's just they've destroyed private healthcare in this country.
And it amazes me that anyone could vote for a Democrat that at this point that voted for that monstrosity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have in the last week, I believe, news stories have come out, and I'm going to fudge the numbers because I don't know exactly what they are, but it's something like in the next year in Minnesota, in Tennessee, premiums are going to go up 50%.
Yeah. But I love that this is all staved off until after the election.
Of course.
And didn't the Republicans allow that to happen at some point? Didn't they push off the employer mandate? They let that be moved.
That's the dirty little secret about this whole thing is Republicans aren't really as anti-Obamacare as they say they are, because they too have a public stance and a private stance.
Well, they are the party of Lincoln, after all.
True. And I know I'll hear people say, oh, that's bullshit. It's not bullshit.
Oh, come on. Anybody that's being intellectually honest knows that that's not bullshit.
They just think they could manage it better.
Yep. They should be in charge of this monster, this $20 trillion in debt monster that they've created. No, I think the whole thing has to crack up. I agree with you. I don't know that there's any way to reform it. I think it's so out of control. And I've likened it to tent caterpillars. Do you guys have those out in the Midwest?
I don't know what that is.
They're this parasitic caterpillar that makes its nest in trees. Mm-hmm. So they look like giant like spider webs that'll go from one branch to the other. And if you don't catch it early, you basically just the tree's gone. They've destroyed it. And that's what I think about. Like the federal government started out being really tiny. So it's just this little sapling and it branches off in 3 directions. Mm-hmm. And then those branches subdivide. And then these parasites come in and just set up house. And it's like, nope, you got to just burn the damn tree to the ground at this point. I don't know how you can even go about thinking about fixing it.
Yeah.
It's so far gone. And people don't want to accept that reality that it's just like, no, sorry guys, like this just isn't working anymore. These people have lied to us and they've stolen from us. They've sent children off to wars that they were completely unnecessary. And that was one of the other zingers last night. I don't know if you caught that, where Hillary just kept, Trump has maligned everybody from the Mexican judge. She said, this is the woman that says we're all implicitly biased. And then Trump raises the idea that a judge of Mexican heritage who is on the board of La Raza, was it?
Yes.
He had some connection with La Raza, which, come on, that means the race. This is a Latino supremacy kind of group, which is just insane. And that, let's call it for what it is, said that guy might not be able to judge me unbiasedly because I've said some stuff about wanting to build a wall and cut down on Mexican immigration. That seems like a fair point. But if we're going to present it in simplistic, stupid terms that other people can understand, oh, he just hates Mexicans. And you think, okay, whatever. But then, and then he was so mean to that Gold Star family, the Khans. And he never really said anything about them if you go back and look at what he said. He raised the issue of the fact that the wife stood there and wasn't allowed to say a damn word behind her husband, which is an interesting point.
Maybe she's bashful, Tracy. Maybe she's
It's true. Then she shouldn't be on stage. That's how this works. I'm sorry. But if you don't have anything to say, why do I have to look at you? So he said his comeback to her, which was just such a slam dunk. If I had been president, their son would still be alive.
And the left went ape shit.
Absolutely batshit nuts. What was it? Her foreign policy advisor that tweeted that, what did he say? Go fuck yourself?
Yes. They're very concerned about rhetoric and, and language, Tracy.
Yes. And he left that tweet stand, too. I thought that's going memory hole. Nope, that tweet's still out there.
I'll tell you what.
Thousands of retweets.
I give him credit for keeping it up there. A Republican would have pulled that down.
Yes. True. But these are the people that are worried about Donald Trump's mouth. I don't know, but I mean, that's the best argument they can come up with. Go fuck yourself. No, it's pretty true. Trump is just saying, if I was president, we wouldn't have gone into war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So what? Okay. You guys love to play this alternative universe kind of game. And she did say Trump lives in an alternate universe, which is grammatically incorrect. I believe it's alternative.
I think she said
or she said alternative. Yes. Alternative universe, and it's alternate universe. But they love to do that game. That's one of their favorites. And so when it gets turned around on them, they just lash out like crazy, and it's so amusing.
Yeah, hypothetical Hillary likes to come up with all of these. Well, what about the person in Scranton, Pennsylvania that couldn't afford his health insurance? So Obamacare helped him because he had a pre-existing condition. Okay, what about the 100 and some odd million Americans that got totally screwed over by the bill? Yeah, but what about Jim in Scranton?
Well, she introduced the idea. They love to do this thing where they get letters. Obama has done this several times. Oh, I get letters from people all the time asking me. So she was playing off of that whole deal about people that are just aghast at Trump's language. And so she got a letter from a woman. And I can't remember if I feel like she said something about the woman's religion or something, like a nice Methodist woman that adopted an Ethiopian child. He's a little 10-year-old. And he said to her, Mom, is Donald Trump going to deport me if he No, he didn't. You're such a ridiculous liar. And are we supposed to, if that is true, and I believe it was Stefan Molyneux, and I sent you a bunch of his tweets from last night because they were so hilarious. He's like, are we really supposed to base our foreign policy decisions and our border security off of what a 10-year-old Ethiopian adopted child is saying to us? Really? This is how base and silly our politics has become? Oh, and you can see lefties at home just shaking their head and be like, that's so awful. That poor little boy.
I wish we had someone ask a question about Islamophobia at this debate. Can we get to the important issues about cyberbullying?
And they did mention the bullying. There's this whole bullshit phenomenon now called the Trump effect, which they like to talk about, that bullying in school is getting out of control and it's all Trump's fault. Excuse me. This has been going on for years. They've been talking about this bullying in school stuff. And it's just because everybody now has glass feelings.
Yes.
That are so easily broken. Oh, no.
The pussification of America continues.
Ugh. God.
Can you say one nice thing about each other? That's my new
Please.
Thing. I like doing that's my new character, pearl clutching with your sphincter. That person. Oh my gosh, they're saying such mean things about each other. Can't you say one? Can we end the debate on a nice note? Will you say one nice thing about each other?
Oh my God! And the other thing,
he would have said, "Screw you!" And your stupid question, you flaming vagina.
Fingers, we can't talk like that.
I'm sorry.
It's very unbecoming.
I don't want to be pegged as a sexual predator now for calling
what
someone.
Will the children think?
To the 10-year-old Ethiopian who may be listening to this, I hope you weren't offended by me calling that person who asked that question a belching, flaming vagina. Just get along. Why do you have to fight?
Just go back to your plane and drink, Hillary.
How many gin gimlets do you think she had after that whistle?
Oof, I don't know. Ew. Vodka gimlets, yes. Gin gimlets, no.
No?
But she does strike me as a clear liquor drinker.
Oh, yeah.
So this was, I found the quote from one of the WikiLeaks things, I believe it was. Or it could be from somewhere else, Politico, I guess. This is the highlighted quote from Amy Chozick, who's a New York Times reporter that covers Hillary. So somebody said, covering Clinton, what's the one thing that has surprised you about her? And Amy's response is, she likes to drink. We were on the campaign trail in 2008, and the press thought she was just taking shots to pander to voters in Pennsylvania. No.
Found something I like about her.
Yeah, that's something I can get on board with.
I mean,
I can't get on. Go ahead.
She's like, what? She's 80? 86? Yeah. 92?
Around there.
The fact that she's at that age and still does shots.
Getting her drink on? Yeah. Sure. Well, 2008 was 8 years ago, so she was only 61.
Do you think her behavior has changed all? Well, maybe it has. She's on all those blood thinners.
Yeah, you're really not supposed to drink on the blood thinners.
Right.
You're not. Well, like I said, when you're on blood thinners, it turns you into a hemophiliac.
Yeah. And then you add alcohol into the mix.
Yeah, and you're prone to falling and also hurling things at people. So if you're the kind of person that likes to get drunk on blood thinners and throw stuff at people, you have to wonder if someone's going to throw something back at you.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly legitimate as it would be in self-defense. So she's got to be very careful. I'm surprised they don't have her like John Travolta boy in the bubble, or Bubble Boy, I guess is better. When Jake Gyllenhaal was in that giant bubble that actually was portable. That's what she should be in.
Well, I mean, you go back to that footage I sent you a few weeks ago when she was Secretary of State and she's walking up the stairs to her plane and she face plants. Mm-hmm. That to me didn't look like a woman that was on Parkinson's. That to me looked like a woman that had one too many gin and tonics.
Yes. I mean, it happens. You can fall down.
Does it?
I've been known to trip and fall from time to time. Soberly. No, I remember I had gone a really long streak because I always remember it because I laugh even when I fall down because I think people falling down is some of the funniest shit ever. Sure. And I distinctly remember there was a long stretch of time where I was like, how long has it been since I've fallen? Maybe a couple years. And then within a week, I just bit it coming out of a trailer on set, walking down the stairs or going up them, one or the other. And I fell and just destroyed my knee. I fell this summer at the DNC. See, got a big old scar on my knee from it.
That happens a lot more to women than it does men. And I have a theory on that.
Okay.
It's because you wear different kinds of shoes.
I was wearing sneakers both times.
Well, no, but I get that. But sometimes you wear heels. Sometimes you wear flip-flops. Sometimes you wear sneakers. And the shoes are always different. So you have heels and you're walking and you're used to walking heels. Then you're walking in flats. And then you're walking in sneakers. And then you're walking barefoot because you're drunk and you're walking home from the bar and the sidewalk's gross, but you don't care. And
right.
you biff. That doesn't happen. I don't see too many guys outside of old clips of Gerald Ford just falling flat on their faces unless they're completely wasted.
This is an interesting theory.
We should let's get a hold of that Ask Lesko guy and see if we can get a government grant.
You know, I ran into him, right?
When
I went to the NatGat, that's what they called the Occupy National Gathering down in Philly a couple of years ago.
Was he wearing a regular suit?
Yep. That's how I recognized him. He had on some ridiculous outfit. I was like, oh, that's the guy that teaches you how to scam money from the government.
$10,000 to start your own business. $20,000 to open up your own coffee shop.
Yep.
Ask Lesko!
Yeah, he was there. He was a big supporter of Occupy. His son was involved, I guess, and chatted with him briefly.
You know, that's the thing that really drives me. If that's all true, which I find it hard to believe that it is, because if it really was true or is true that you can get that kind of money that easily, everybody would be doing it. It seems to me. It sounds like a scam.
There is a limited time, and there's a limited number of these things that they're giving out, but we know that it happens. I mean, look at what was the name of the lawsuit against the federal government about the black farmers. You remember that? That was Breitbart was looking into that the Pigford thing, and how everybody came out of the woodwork and said they were farmers.
Yeah.
So all Lesko's doing is just drawing attention to like, hey, here's all this money that the government sets aside, and then it can point to later and say, well, we created all these jobs. Like, look at this.
Well, and that would piss me. Going back to what you said earlier about how you just wrote a big check. I'm writing that check out while somebody's on the TV saying, get $20,000 to open up your own coffee shop.
Right. Like,
what the hell am I doing here? Screw you and your damn coffee shop.
Absolutely. And I know it's also going to pay for everybody's salary. And we've talked about that, like walking around DC and just looking at all those goddamn buildings.
Yep.
They were just chock full of people that I imagine sitting in their little cubes all day in a chair, maybe spinning it a couple times, looking at porn, doing whatever it is that they do, staying home on snow days. And this is...
Do you think their computers are modern enough to be able to get on internet porn?
I don't know. I'm sure they have cell phones.
Probably. That's what it is. I mean, they're probably working on Windows 4 at this point.
No, they're still on floppies.
Your nuclear program is on a 5.5-inch floppy disk.
Such an incredible joke. And just like, how much longer can the ruse go on?
It's not.
In all honesty.
It's not. And you're already seeing cracks. These banks we're getting to the point now where if we can't raise the interest rate up a quarter of a point without Wall Street going batshit crazy.
Right.
You have negative interest rates in Europe.
Yeah, and their banks are on the verge of collapse. Like Deutsche Bank is on the verge.
Yep.
And it's just silly because they're like, well, you have to have more assets on your balance sheet. And they're like, well, we don't want to keep any assets because you guys are charging us negative interest rates.
Right.
So if we keep any money in-house, we have to pay you to keep it. Do you not understand how incentives work and disincentives at the same time? It's just madness.
Do people understand that anymore?
No.
I don't think they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, we still have people, and I believe you talked about it last week, we're arguing with people who think that because your taxes were cut, that's the reason why the housing market collapsed.
Which is unbelievable. This is a brand new twist on this whole thing. Oh, it's because of the Bush tax cuts. What are you talking about? The Bush tax cuts that went to the top 1%. Yeah. I'm like, are you insane? Honestly, do you really believe that? Do you not even bother looking stuff up? And like, okay, here were the tax cuts. The top rate went from 39.6 to 35. Then the next one, 36 to 33, then 31 to 28, and then 28 to 25. Those were the tax cuts. And they introduced a new level at the bottom for a 10%. So there was a little tax increase on those at the bottom, but I can't remember the first, whatever it is, 15 or 20,000 is basically tax free. And those people actually get money. But this is mental.
But this just goes back to how much better the Democrats are at this stuff than Republicans. You have... And I think I can't remember who was talking about this, but the Clintons did a marvelous job of being able to turn taxes into contributions, they would call them.
Yes.
You're contributing, you're making an investment, we're investing in America. Okay? They did that in the 90s, and now they've got people running around thinking that if we cut your taxes, it could cause an economic collapse.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's bad for the economy.
Not only that it could, that it did.
Yes.
That the economy sucked under Bush. And I didn't write down the growth numbers, the GDP growth percentages over the course of the Bush administration. But when I was trying to make this argument, this is why I have these figures at my hand, because I was legitimately arguing with somebody on Facebook, a lefty, that thought that this was true, that it was because the rich got tax cuts. And I had to say, okay, almost everybody that paid taxes got a tax. Everybody that paid taxes got a tax cut. That's how it worked. And don't you remember?
You even have people that don't pay taxes.
Yeah, they get credits.
Yes.
Which is called a check. And at some point, didn't they send out checks to pretty much everybody?
Yes, they had a stimulus And it wasn't, we're going to go around and pretend that we are going to repair the infrastructure, the crumbling roads and bridges, Tracy.
Right, by throwing up signs on already existing road work. That's how, those were the shovel-ready jobs. They were already in progress. Like, yes. I think I've talked about the bridge into Ocean City, where I spend my summers. There are 4 bridges into and off of this island. One of them was built by private contractors, and you have to pay a toll to use it. That bridge went up in like a year. Then there's the bridge to get over onto 9th Street. And that had existed my entire childhood. It was this old creaky drawbridge, whatever. So they decided to redo this. This ends up costing $250 million and taking, I don't know, 4 or 5 years maybe to complete. Mm-hmm. So the construction started in 2006 or 2007. How quickly do you want to believe that the signs went up? Like, you know, those beautiful signs with the Recovery Act logo and all this garbage. Yeah, that was under construction well before that ever happened. But all they did was, we'll just dump in federal money into that project. Now the state of New Jersey can pull back the money that it put in. And that's it. It's just a shell game.
And all those people that lost their jobs back then. And there were a lot of people who lost their jobs back then.
Sure.
Instead of trying to figure out a way to stimulate the economy in a way that, say, an accountant would get his job back as an accountant. Instead, they're like, no, we're going to create shovel-ready jobs.
Yeah, everybody wants to go out and pick up a shovel.
Right. How ridiculous
That's what we all
is
want.
that?
We all want manual labor jobs. No, but, oh, crap. No, I forgot what I was going to say to you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I bring up the New Deal 2.0.
Oh, but you don't. The idea that we even need government intervention is the major problem. If you look at the crash that followed after World War I, when Harding's Harding's only term, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing to intervene in the economy, and it turned around in a matter of a year. Mm-hmm. And then, since the Great Depression, where we're just like, nope, we need intervention. That's the only way we can solve this stuff. That's everybody's accepted this.
Yeah.
Both sides. And so that's what we have to do. Oh, nope, it's because the government's not spending enough of your money. That's the problem. It's not, we need innovation and we need to create new sources of revenue and new industries to expand this pie. We just need to divvy up the pie in a better way.
It's immoral and it's obscene to make the argument that somehow you are a bad person because you want to keep more of the money that you earned as opposed to giving it to the Obama-Clinton crime family.
Yeah. Well, by that same token, if you take that down to a micro level, that's saying you're a bad person for putting locks on your door to prevent people that need it from being able to steal from you.
Yeah.
And that's how grotesque it is. And I love it that the left gets super offended by the idea that taxation is theft. And you can never get them to explain it away. Roads, okay, great. They built so many of the roads in the Northeast were toll roads. And they were built by private industry during the 19th century, people. Like, you can look this stuff up. It's totally available information. And I remember getting into a fight with a professor, and I knew he was a professor. This was a random Twitter fight in like 2009 or 2010, and I offhandedly was like, "Are you a professor?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing," because he did that thing, the roads. Yeah, the roads were built. I was like, dude, you know what? I live on Route 30. That was built by private industry that wanted people that lived in the city of Philadelphia to come out and shop and be able to get to their businesses. This is why things happen. Mm-hmm. This is how this works. This was all built before there was this grand federal government to come in and divvy up money from other states and give it to you.
But
I mean, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish your point.
No, it was just taking me to one of the WikiLeaks things was a bunch of synopses of the speeches that Hillary's given to banks and stuff like this. And she talked about like how grossed out she was that everybody runs to New York to get money from people, and then they turn their backs on New York in the wake of Sandy. This was the context that the country, there was a big fight about giving federal money to New York and New Jersey. There always is after one of these things. And she was just decrying it. Like, well, New York gives out all the time. It's like, yeah, well, that's got to stop. And I think it was I can't remember what the disaster was that happened when Coolidge was president. there was something that happened to the state of Vermont, which was his home state, even though he ended up being the governor of Massachusetts before he was president. But he said, no, we're not going to send federal money to it. This is not how this works. We don't take money from people in California to fix stuff that's happening in Vermont.
Right.
It's not the way that it's supposed to go, but that's another thing that's gone completely out the window. And now it's just expected. If there's an emergency somewhere else, and I can kind of understand that, but this is what private charity is for then.
Right. But that's part of the problem now is too many people have turned to the voting booth as their way of thinking that they're making some sort of charitable contribution to the citizenry.
Oh, I think they think it's community service.
Yes.
I'm convinced of this. In the area where I live outside of Philadelphia, a large portion of those people are rich Democrats, and they don't lift a finger to help anybody, but they'll go to the voting booth and feel good about themselves because they elected Democrats like Shaka Fatah, who's pocketing money, giving stimulus funds to his son, who's also going out. I don't know if Shaka's going to jail yet, but his son's off to jail for stealing from poor people. But yeah, you guys did your community service. You throw on your $600 pair of sneakers and go down to the old soup kitchen with Michelle Obama on Sunday.
Well, and going back to the whole road argument too, it's a good one, in their heads because that's something that people use every day.
Sure.
It's like, okay, people can understand roads. I understand roads too, and I know the roads in my area are shitty.
Yes.
And I know the roads when I drive into Michigan are really shitty. And you're telling me based on how the government handles roads that I should turn my health care over to them? Really? That's your argument?
Well, and also in theory, and it doesn't happen in practice because they can't stop themselves from stealing from the Highway Trust Fund, all those roads are supposed to be taken care of via the gas tax.
Right.
So it's not a federal income tax question. And the same goes for education, which Trump keeps getting slammed on. They're like, well, he hasn't paid anything for roads and education. He's a real estate developer. Do you know what real estate taxes go to pay for, Fingers? Schools.
Schools?
That's how that works. Taxes.
In fact, mine just went up. And all of my...
I thought Indiana had a cap on them.
Well, here's the deal. You can go in and vote for a tax increase in your little community, and mine did because
bunch of a-holes.
It's expanding. And what drives me nuts is, and I've said this before on the show, in our school district here in Indiana, the kids have iPads. Mm-hmm. They have iPads. My daughter's in first grade. She has an iPad. And we're raising taxes so that these kids, instead of having textbooks, and they can argue all they want to. Oh, well, it's cheaper. They have iPads. Now, I don't know about you, but when I went to school in Michigan, my textbook was provided by the school. It was old. Mm-hmm. It didn't have to be. You don't need a new math book.
No. No.
You can use a math book for several years if the kids take care of them. So we'd make book covers. Mm-hmm. But we're paying book fees, and the kids have iPads, and these schools, Tracy, these elementary schools that they have in this district are bigger than the first community college I went to in mid-Michigan.
And they probably have more administrators than teachers.
Oh, of course. But they raise the taxes. So, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go back on a tangent again.
No,
but,
no, you're fine.
No, that's what the property taxes are for schools.
But schools are handled at a local level.
Right.
By and large.
Should be. And that's another thing when they go to trying to federalize all of this stuff is they want all of these decisions made in a building in Washington, D.C. So when you go up to the school board and bitch, well, I'm sorry, our hands are tied. All those decisions are made in Washington. And then what are you going to do? Nothing. You're going to go back home with your tail in between your legs saying, oh, geez, nothing we can do. All these decisions are made in Washington. Well, screw that. I don't want these decisions made in Washington.
But they're not.
I don't want curriculum decisions made in Washington, Tracy.
Right, that's where the curriculum is.
Yeah, they're trying to make a national curriculum. And there's nothing you can do about it if that goes through, and that's the way it is. That's going to be the answer. Well, it's all these decisions are made in Washington. I'm sorry, I thought Republicans were for local control of everything. Mm-hmm. Anything we can do to make it more local, that's what we need to do. But then on the other side of their mouth is, you know what? We need more education funding. No, we need to eliminate the Department of Education.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. It
doesn't educate anybody. But it gives them something to lie about. And this is another thing that came out of the WikiLeaks of Hillary's paid speeches. She actually says this. She says, because of the way our education system is governed, unless you're a governor or maybe a mayor, there's not much politicians can do. But yet she's going to run around, and she's been doing it this whole time. We're going to fix education. And, I roll my eyes, and Trump says the same thing. Like, there's really nothing you can do from D.C. The best thing they could do is gut the Department of Education, just shut it down. Because they have federal dollars tied to stuff that then they force on other communities. And that was one thing that Gary Johnson said was absolutely correct. And I think he said it on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about these mandates that come down from the feds. And if you don't abide by them, then you don't get the money. But all the rules they said, he's like, for every 10 cents they send you, you've got 11 cents worth of stuff you have to do. Yeah. So it becomes ridiculous. But they want that money. They want that cash flow. It's tent caterpillars.
Well, that's how they keep their power. I mean, they strong-armed states to lower their speed limits to 55 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They have strong-armed states with seatbelt laws and have threatened highway funds for different reasons if states don't comply with what the federal government wants them to comply to. It's much better to say, you know what, we don't need a Department of Education. Let people keep that money in the states, their local communities, instead of sending it to Washington and then begging to have that money sent back to them.
Yeah, a fraction of it.
Right.
Because they've got to take their cut.
Right, because they're a crime family.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how the mob works. You're paying up. You're paying your protection fees.
It's a nice school you have there. Be a shame if something happens to it. Yeah, you need to put another bathroom in here. You want that money, don't you?
Yep. Yeah, I saw, speaking of good memes, I saw one that was great, and it was saying, now with this gender-neutral bathroom situation and locker room situation, I guess a lot of people are going to get acquainted with the kind of talk they heard on that Trump tape. It was more succinct than that, obviously, because it fit on a meme, but that was the general point of the piece. I'm like, yep.
I just, people talk about locker room talk and stuff like that. I said it earlier. I'm just completely amazed that a man 59 years old would talk like that.
I'm not.
I mean, I surround myself with some guys that are, I'm going to be 45 here in a little bit, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't go talking about, go around saying I'd grab a woman's.
Sure.
It's stunning to me. Because you'd hear guys that talk like that about all the success they have with women, and you think 9 times out of 10 they're completely bullshitting.
Yeah.
Or if they aren't bullshitting, it's like, why am I hanging around this douchebag? Really? You're either a dick or a douchebag, and I don't know if I want to hang around long enough to figure out which one you are. And he's 59 talking this way. I would hope, now that the man is 70 years old, that maybe he doesn't talk that way anymore. I mean, I'm not talking about not saying those words. I just got done saying them halfway through the podcast.
Sure.
But just that whole stream of thought regarding, doing what he can with women, it's like, God, you're 70 now. You're 70 years old. And while I admire anyone 70 who has the kind of libido that would think about doing something like that, as far as going up and,
look, he doesn't have low T, okay?
Approaching a woman, maybe not unwanted sexual advances, but still, the fact that he's still thinking about that sort of thing at 70,
Yeah.
Good for him, but at 50...
I do kind of think it's a truism, though, and I've heard people dissecting this and saying, look, men that have a lot of money and a lot of power and, name recognition, prestige, they've got their names up, women will throw themselves at them, and he was kind of commenting on that whole phenomenon, which is absolutely true. I mean, think about that. Like, I just immediately think of Anna Nicole Smith and that, wheelchair-bound old man that she hitched herself
Skeletor?
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the grandpa in South Park.
Yeah, Mr. Burns.
Yeah. But I'm sure she let him grab it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because he was attractive.
Well, she met him, I believe, at the strip club.
Sure.
God, and he was like 108 years old.
Right. Well, look at how respected like Hugh Hefner is to a certain extent. And I read Holly's book. I worked with her. I read the stuff that he did. Like what Trump said pales in comparison to some of these people that are huge media stars. And then you think about the left acting all offended by this. And they've circled the wagons for Roman Polanski for years.
Yeah.
Woody Allen's still totally invited everywhere he wants to go. Bill Cosby was the one that they decided to cast aside, and you can determine on your own whether or not you think that's just racism at work. But they've never had a problem with this kind of behavior. And this isn't even just this is just talking, as far as we know.
I'm sure it's going to come out.
Of course.
We'll have an Anita Hill come out and say that I was at some bar, and he walked up to me and he grabbed my cooch.
Sure.
I thought he was going to shake my. I thought he was going to shake my hand.
And goosed me.
It's going to happen. I can only imagine what's going to come out in the next 30 days.
Yeah, it's going to be that, or I've been hearing rumblings too that they've got something on him, like what was it, Roger Sterling-esque tapes of him saying vicious, racist words. Okay, so we'll do a press conference where we get Mike Tyson out there. Talking about eating people's children on behalf of Trump, and then you'll just cheer. I mean, I honestly think that people are going to hold him to a different standard than they would hold somebody that's based their entire life around being a public person, a politician.
Right.
That they want to keep their crimes really super duper quiet.
Tracy, we've talked for over 2 hours.
I know, it's nuts. We got to shut up.
Yeah. All right. We'll end this. Want to thank Ashe Schow from the New York Observer, Washington Examiner for joining us earlier. Tracy, where can everyone find the Enough Already podcast?
iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook and at EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com.
Follow Tracy on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. That's Connors. Follow me on Twitter at Fingers Malloy. Music for the Enough Already podcast is provided to us courtesy of YoPaulyMusic.com. Check out Paul Croteau's music there. It's good stuff. Anything else, Tracy?
I think that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening. We will be back next week.